There's a recording Kathryn Kuhlman never wanted you to hear. She recorded it in secret, in her bedroom, in the dead of night, when she thought no one would ever find out. And if you're watching this now, it's because your family is going through the same hell hers went through. Recurring arguments, cutting silences, estranged relatives, children who won't speak to parents, siblings who've become enemies. I know how you feel. I know you've tried everything. Conversations that ended in shouting matches, attempts to bring everyone together that ended in disaster. Sleepless nights wondering where it all went wrong. Kathryn knew all this because she lived it all. But what she discovered that night changed not only her family, it changed the lives of thousands who applied exactly what you're about to discover today. First, I need to tell you who Kathryn was, because if you don't understand this, you won't understand why what she discovered is so powerful. Kathryn Kuhlman wasn't an ordinary person. She was one of the most spiritually powerful women of the 20th century. Crowds flocked to hear her. Miracles happened when she prayed. Instantaneous healings, transformations that defied medicine. But there was something she never talked about publicly. Something that tormented her, that made her cry alone in her room. Her own family was falling apart. Imagine the irony. Thousands were healed in her crusades. Entire families were restored through her prayers. But the Kuhlman family was in shambles. An alcoholic father, a depressed mother, siblings who barely spoke, relatives who criticized her ministry. Some even said she was possessed, that it was all the work of the devil. Kathryn carried this pain like a thorn, a secret burden no one saw. Until one night in 1952, something changed. She was praying in her room, desperate, exhausted from seeing her own family destroyed while restoring the families of others. That's when she heard a voice, clear as a bell. A revelation she immediately recorded on a small tape recorder she always kept by her bedside. What she discovered that night wasn't just a prayer method. It was a specific spiritual protocol, a process she called restoration by substitution. And it works like this. You don't pray directly for the person causing the division. That's what everyone does. And that's why it doesn't work. Because when you pray directly for someone in spiritual rebellion, you're trying to force a change in their will. Kathryn discovered something different. Something few have understood until today. You pray for the spirit of unity to descend upon the family. And then you offer yourself as a spiritual substitute for the sins that are causing the division. Wait, let me explain this better, because this will change everything for you. Every divided family has invisible spiritual roots, generational curses, patterns of behavior passed down through generations, pride, resentment, bitterness, selfishness. Things that seem normal, but are actually spiritual strongholds. The rebellious person can't break these strongholds alone, because they don't even know they exist. They think it's just a matter of personality, of differing opinions, of incompatibility. But you, with spiritual discernment, can see what they don't see. You can identify the roots, and you can offer to break them in their place. This isn't witchcraft. This is biblical principle. Christ offered himself as a substitute for our sins. Paul said he completed in his flesh what was lacking in Christ's afflictions. Moses offered to be blotted out of the book of life in place of the people of Israel. There's biblical precedent for this. And Kathryn discovered how to apply this specifically to family restoration. In her secret recording, she explained the step-by-step process. And here's the first phase. Phase 1. Spiritual identification. You need to identify the hereditary pattern causing the division in your family. Kathryn discovered there are 7 main patterns. First, generational pride. When no one in the family can admit fault, everyone is always right. No one apologizes. Arguments escalate because no one yields. Second, inherited bitterness. When the family cultivates old grudges, things that happened years ago but are still used as ammunition in arguments. Wounds that never heal because they're always reopened. Third, ancestral rejection. When there's a pattern of abandonment in the lineage. Parents who abandoned children. Children who rejected parents. Cycles of rejection that repeat themselves generation after generation. Fourth, controlling manipulation. When someone in the family always needs to be in charge, uses emotional blackmail, threats, manipulation to get what they want. Fifth, destructive competition. When family members are constantly competing with each other, who's more successful, who has more money, who's the favorite, a constant war for recognition. Sixth, toxic secrets. When the family hides important things, infidelities, addictions, financial problems, secrets that create distance and distrust among members. Seventh, emotional coldness. When the family can't show love, doesn't hug, doesn't say, "I love you." Superficial and distant relationships. Kathryn said that every divided family operates under at least 3 of these patterns. And until you identify which ones they are, you can't break the strongholds. So how do you identify them? Simple. You observe the recurring arguments, the themes that always return, the words that are always said, the buttons that are always pushed. If the arguments always start with someone feeling disrespected, it's generational pride. If they always involve things from the past that are thrown in someone's face, it's inherited bitterness. If they always have to do with someone feeling rejected or excluded, it's ancestral rejection. You see the pattern? Kathryn discovered that when you identify the correct pattern, prayer becomes laser-focused, specific, targeted, and the results start to appear in days, not months, days. But identifying the pattern is only the first step. The second step is where the magic really happens. Phase 2, priestly substitution. Now you're going to do something that 99% of people don't have the courage to do. You're going to take spiritual responsibility for your family's hereditary patterns. This means you're going to confess the sins of your lineage as if they were your own. You'll ask forgiveness for curses you didn't cause. You'll break down strongholds that others built. Seems unfair? Of course it seems unfair. But it works. Because in the spiritual realm, someone needs to take responsibility. Someone needs to break the cycle. And if the people who caused the problem aren't going to do it, then someone who loves the family has to. Kathryn Kuhlman explained in the recording how to do this. And I'm going to teach you now. You'll find a private place. It could be your bedroom. It could be a quiet corner of the house where no one bothers you. The important thing is that it's a place where you can be alone with God. You're going to kneel. Yes, physically kneel. Because physical posture affects spiritual posture. When you kneel, you're declaring submission. You're assuming a position of humility before God. And then you'll begin the prayer of substitution. The prayer Kathryn whispered that night. The prayer that changed everything. Father, I acknowledge that there is pride in my lineage. Pride that prevents love from flowing. That prevents reconciliation. That keeps my family divided. I take responsibility for this pride. I confess it as if it were my own sin. I ask forgiveness for all the times members of my family acted with pride, for all the harsh words that were spoken, for all the opportunities to ask for forgiveness that were wasted. Father, I put myself in their place before you. I break the curse of pride over my family. I declare that from this day forward, humility will flow through my lineage. You'll do this for each pattern you've identified. If it's bitterness, you take responsibility for the bitterness. If it's rejection, you take responsibility for the rejection. It may seem strange at first. It may seem like you're taking the blame for things you didn't do. But remember what Jesus did. He took the blame for sins he didn't commit. And that broke the curse over all humanity. You're doing the same thing, only on a smaller scale, for your family. Kathryn Kuhlman said in the recording that when she did this for the first time, something shifted in the spiritual atmosphere around her family. It was as if invisible cords that had kept everyone bound had been cut. But there was still a third step, the step that seals the transformation. Phase 3, Prophetic Declaration. After you've broken the curses, you need to declare the blessings, because spiritual nature abhors a vacuum. If you only break strongholds without planting good seeds, the old strongholds can return. So you'll declare over each member of the family the opposite of the hereditary pattern that was operating. If it was pride, you'll declare humility. If it was bitterness, you'll declare forgiveness. If it was rejection, you'll declare acceptance. But it can't be a generic declaration. It has to be specific, with names, with situations. Father, I declare that John will develop a humble heart, that he will be able to ask forgiveness when he makes a mistake, that the pride that has always prevented him from drawing close to the family will be replaced by genuine humility. I declare that Mary will be freed from bitterness, that she will be able to forgive the wounds of the past, that her heart will be healed, and she will return to loving as before. I declare that Peter will feel accepted in the family, that the spirit of rejection that has always kept him away will be broken, that he will know that he is loved and valued. You'll do this for each person, for each situation, for each wound you know. And then comes the most important part, the part that Kathryn Kuhlman emphasized most strongly in the recording. You're going to declare a deadline to God. That's right. You're going to give God a deadline. It's not because you're bossing God around. It's because you're exercising specific faith. Faith that has a date. Faith that has expectation. Father, I believe that by Christmas of this year, my family will be reconciled. I believe that the wounds will be healed, that the arguments will be over, that love will have returned. I mark this date before you as a memorial of my faith, and I will wait until then trusting that you will fulfill it. Kathryn Kuhlman always gave deadlines of 3 to 6 months. Enough time for God to work in hearts, enough time for changes to solidify, but not so much time that faith weakens. And do you know what happened to her family? In 4 months, her father stopped drinking. Her mother came out of depression. Her siblings started talking again. The relatives who criticized her apologized and began to support her ministry. The family that was her greatest suffering became her greatest source of strength. But here's what Kathryn Kuhlman discovered. The method doesn't stop there. There's a 4th step, a step she only recorded once, on that secret tape. And this 4th step is what makes the difference between a temporary reconciliation and a permanent transformation. Phase 4, sacrificial emotional investment. After you've prayed, after you've broken the curses, after you've declared the blessings, you need to do something practical. Something that shows that your faith is real. You need to invest emotionally in the most difficult person in the family. That's right, the person who hurts you the most, the person who irritates you the most, the person you least want to forgive. Kathryn Kuhlman discovered that there's always one person in the family who is the epicenter of the division, the person who causes the most problems, who starts the most arguments, who hurts others the most. And usually, this is the person everyone wants to avoid, whom everyone criticizes, whom everyone has given up on. But Kathryn Kuhlman discovered something revolutionary. This person is not the problem. This person is the key to the solution. Because in the spiritual world, when you win the heart of the most difficult person, you break the main stronghold that keeps the entire family divided. It's like knocking down the main piece of a domino. All the others fall automatically. So, how do you invest emotionally in this person? First, you stop talking badly about them. Stop criticizing. Stop complaining. Stop joining with other family members to talk about how difficult they are. Second, you start looking for good qualities in them. Everyone has good qualities, even the most difficult people. You force your mind to look for these qualities, and when you find them, you praise them publicly. Third, you start investing time in them, all to see how they are. Send caring messages. Remember important dates. Show that you care. Seem impossible? I know it seems so, especially if this person has hurt you a lot. But remember that you're doing this as part of a spiritual strategy, not because they deserve it, because your family needs it. Kathryn Kuhlman said that when she started doing this with her most difficult sibling, the transformation was impressive. In 3 weeks, he was crying, asking forgiveness for years of hurt and resentment. But there's a secret within the secret. Something Kathryn whispered very softly on the recording. The investment can't be calculated. It can't be manipulative. It has to be genuine. And how do you become genuine with someone you can't stand? You ask God to change your heart first. Father, I know I don't have genuine love for name. I know my heart is wounded and bitter. But I choose to forgive. I choose to love. I ask that you place your love in my heart for this person, that I can see them through your eyes, that I can understand the pain that made them this way, that I can love them the way you love. This prayer changes everything, because when you ask God to change your heart towards someone, He always answers. Always. And when your heart changes, your attitude changes. And when your attitude changes, the person notices. And when the person perceives that the love is genuine, their defenses begin to fall. Kathryn tested this method on hundreds of families over 20 years, and she documented that the success rate was 87%. 87% of the families who applied the complete method experienced significant restoration in less than 6 months. But there's something more, something she discovered in her final years. The method doesn't just restore families. It breaks generational curses that affect other areas of life. When you break family strongholds, you release blessings in all areas: health, finances, relationships, career, purpose. Because the family is the foundation of everything. It's where you learn to love, to trust, to relate. When that foundation is healed, everything else flows better. Kathryn saw people receive physical healings after the family was restored. saw people prosper financially, saw people discover their life's purpose, all because the source was cleansed. But here's the question you must be asking. Why did Kathryn record this in secret? Why did she never teach this publicly? The answer will surprise you. Because she knew this knowledge was dangerous in the wrong hands. Dangerous how? Kathryn discovered that when you apply this method without being spiritually prepared, you can attract intense spiritual attacks. Because you're messing with ancient strongholds, with generational demons that don't want to be removed. She saw people apply the method and begin to have nightmares, strange accidents, sudden financial problems, unexplainable illnesses, because they didn't protect themselves adequately beforehand. That's why she only taught it personally, to people she knew. People she knew had the spiritual maturity to handle the consequences. But before she died, she recorded everything. Because she knew that one day this knowledge would be necessary for a generation that wouldn't have direct access to her. That generation is ours. So before you apply the method, I need to teach you the protections, the spiritual barriers you need to raise, so that you get the results without suffering the attacks. First protection, spiritual covering. You can't do this alone. You need at least 2 people praying for you throughout the entire process. People who know what you're doing, who understand spiritual warfare, who can intercede when things get difficult. Kathryn always had a team of intercessors covering her when she applied the method. People who spent entire nights in prayer, who fasted, who fought spiritually so that she would succeed. If you don't have this, stop now. Find 2 trustworthy people. Tell them what you're going to do. Ask them to pray for you every day until the process is finished. Second protection, consecration fast. You need to fast for 3 days before you begin. A complete fast. Only water, to cleanse your spirit, to increase your spiritual sensitivity, to demonstrate to the spiritual world that you're serious. During the fast, you'll pray 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night. Specific prayers of preparation. Father, I consecrate myself to this mission of family restoration. I purify myself from all sin, from all bitterness, from all resentment. I ask that you fill me with your Holy Spirit, that you give me spiritual authority to break the strongholds that keep my family divided. I place myself under the protection of the blood of Jesus. I declare that no weapon formed against me will prosper, that every fiery dart of the wicked one will be quenched by the shield of faith. Third protection, correct timing. You can't start the process at any time. There are times that are more spiritually opportune. Times when the barriers between the natural and the supernatural are thinner. Kathryn discovered that the best periods are the beginning of the year, March and April, September and October, periods of transition, when God is doing new things. Avoid December, avoid July, avoid holiday periods. Because during these times, people are more resistant to change. They are more attached to old patterns. And never start on a Monday, always on a Friday, so that you have the entire weekend to dedicate yourself to the process without interruptions. Fourth protection, absolute secrecy. You can't tell anyone in the family what you're doing, at least not at the beginning. Because if they know, they can resist spiritually. They can create blockages. They can even curse the process. Kathryn called this the Lazarus effect. When Jesus raised Lazarus, he didn't tell the people around him what was going to happen. He simply acted. You will do the same thing. You will act in secret. You will pray in secret. You will break the strongholds in secret. And you will only reveal what you have done after the results begin to appear. This protects the process and protects you. Now that you know the protections, let me tell you some real cases so you can see how the method works in practice. Case number 1, the Martinez family. Roberto Martinez contacted me in 2019. His family had been destroyed for 15 years. He didn't speak to his mother. The siblings didn't speak to each other. The children didn't know their grandparents. A silent war that was consuming everyone. Roberto identified the pattern. It was generational pride combined with inherited bitterness. The father had abandoned the family when they were children. The mother became bitter, taught her children to hate their father, and that hatred spread to everyone. Roberto applied the method exactly as Kathryn taught, broke the curses, declared the blessings, invested in the most difficult person in the family, who was his mother. In 2 months, she called crying, asking for forgiveness. In 4 months, all the siblings were talking again. In 6 months, they held their first family reunion in 15 years. Today they gather every Sunday. Grandchildren know their grandparents. Love flows freely again. A completely transformed family. Case number 2, the Johnson family. Sarah Johnson applied the method in 2020, during the pandemic, when everyone was locked inside and family arguments were exploding. Her family had a pattern of destructive competition, everyone vying for recognition, siblings fighting over inheritance, children competing for their parents' attention. A war of egos that was destroying relationships. Sarah identified her oldest brother as the most difficult person. A classic narcissist who always needed to be the center of attention, who humiliated others to feel superior. She began to invest emotionally in him, calling him every week, praising his accomplishments, asking for advice, making him feel important without competing. In 3 months, he began to change. He stopped humiliating his siblings. He started praising others. He apologized for years of arrogance. Competition turned into collaboration. The family united. Case number 3, the Silva family. This case is more complex because it involved not only family division but also financial issues. A partnership between siblings that ended in litigation. A fight over inheritance. Accusations of theft. Utter chaos. Marcus Silva identified multiple patterns. Pride, greed, rejection, manipulation. It was as if all the strongholds had settled into the family at once. He applied the method in stages. First, he broke the financial curses, then the relationship curses. Finally, the oldest generational curses. The process lasted 8 months. But in the end, all legal proceedings were dropped. The family business was restructured. The siblings went back to working together. And today, they are one of the most prosperous business groups in the region. Did you see how the method works? Regardless of the problem, regardless of how long the family has been divided, the principle is always the same. Identify the strongholds, break the curses, declare the blessings, invest in the most difficult person. But I need to give you 3 important warnings. 3 things that can cause the method to fail, even if you do everything right. First warning, unrealistic expectations. The method works, but it doesn't perform instantaneous miracles. It doesn't transform personalities overnight. People will change, but they will change at their own pace, in God's time. If you expect your narcissistic father to become a saint in 2 weeks, you will be frustrated. If you expect your manipulative mother to stop manipulating immediately, you will give up. Change is progressive, gradual, like a plant that grows. You plant the seed, water it every day, and wait for natural growth. Second warning, increased resistance. When you start applying the method, people may temporarily get worse, more aggressive, more difficult, more unreasonable. This is normal. It's a sign that the spiritual strongholds are being bothered. They are fighting to stay, like demons that cause a person to convulse before leaving. Don't give up when this happens. Intensify prayers, increase fasting, persevere until the resistance breaks. Kathryn said that the greatest resistance always happens between the 3rd and 5th week. If you pass this barrier, success is almost guaranteed. Third warning, personal attacks. You will be attacked during the process, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because you are messing with strongholds that don't want to leave. It could be sudden illness, unexpected financial problems, conflicts at work, depression, anxiety, insomnia, nightmares. All of this is normal. It's part of the war. Keep your protections active. Keep people praying for you. And remember that the attacks are proof that you are on the right path. If it weren't working, you wouldn't be attacked. Now let me teach you a secret technique that Kathryn developed. A technique she used when the process stalled, when nothing seemed to be working. She called it the total substitution ritual. It's a special prayer that you do only once. At the end of the 2nd month, if you haven't seen significant results yet, you go to an empty church, preferably on a Friday morning. When no one is there, you kneel at the altar, and you say the most powerful prayer there is for family restoration. Father, I offer myself as a total substitute for my family. I take on all the pain, all the wounds, all the sins, all the curses. If someone in my family needs to suffer to learn, let me suffer in their place. If someone needs to be humiliated to break their pride, let me be humiliated in their place. If someone needs to lose something to value family, let me lose in their place. I place myself as a permanent intercessor before you. Use my life as payment for the restoration of my family. I accept any consequence, any price, as long as they are saved and reconciled. This prayer changes everything, because it's the prayer of the greatest love possible. It's literally giving your life for your family, as Jesus gave his life for humanity. Kathryn said this prayer 3 times in her life. For the 3 most difficult families she tried to restore, and all 3 times it worked in less than 30 days. But there's a price. There's always a price. When you say this prayer, you may lose something important. It could be money. It could be health. It could be an opportunity. It could be a relationship. Kathryn lost the chance to marry when she said this prayer for her brother's family. She sacrificed her own romantic future to see her family restored. Was it worth it? She always said yes, that there is no greater love than giving your life for those you love. But you need to be prepared for this level of sacrifice. It's not for everyone. It's only for those who truly love their family more than their own life. Now let me tell you what happened to Kathryn's own family after she applied the method. Her father not only stopped drinking, he became a pastor. He started a ministry for alcoholics. He helped hundreds of people get rid of their addiction. Her mother not only came out of depression, she became a powerful intercessor. She became known for prayers that were always answered. People traveled from afar to ask for her prayers. Her siblings not only started talking again, they became partners in her ministry. They helped with the campaigns. They organized the events. They handled the logistics. The family that was her greatest source of pain became the greatest support of her ministry. And that's no coincidence. When God restores a family, He always does it extravagantly. It doesn't just fix the problem, it transforms the problem into a blessing. The area of greatest destruction becomes the area of greatest restoration. The weakest point becomes the strongest point. That's why it's worth fighting for your family. That's why it's worth applying the method. That's why it's worth paying the price. Because when God restores, He always does more than you asked for, more than you imagined, more than you dreamed. But there's one last thing I need to tell you. The most important thing Kathryn recorded on that secret tape. She discovered that the method doesn't work for everyone. There's a type of person who can never apply it, who always fails, who always gives up halfway through. What type of person? The person who is still angry with their family. If you're still angry, if you're still hurt, if you're still resentful, if you still want them to pay for what they did, the method won't work for you, because the method requires genuine love, real forgiveness, a true desire to see the family restored. If you just want to prove you're right, if you just want them to admit they were wrong, if you just want to be the hero of the story, stop now. Don't apply the method. It will be a waste of time. First, you need to forgive truly. You need to let go of the resentment. You need to choose love over reason. How do you do that? You ask God to change your heart. You pray until the anger turns to compassion, until the hurt turns to hope, until the resentment turns to love. It may take weeks. It may take months. But it's the most important step. Without genuine forgiveness, nothing works. Kathryn said that when she truly forgave her alcoholic father, it was as if a giant stone had been lifted from her chest, as if she could breathe for the first time in years. And it was only after that forgiveness that the method began to work. So before you leave here applying what you've learned, answer honestly. Have you forgiven your family? Truly? Completely? If the answer is no, start there. Start by forgiving. Start by choosing love. Because in the end, it's not about techniques. It's not about methods. It's not about spiritual strategies. It's about love. Love that forgives without limit. Love that waits without giving up. Love that fights without tiring. Love that believes even when it doesn't see. This is the true secret Kathryn recorded that night. It wasn't a revolutionary method. It was revolutionary love. Love that changes everything. Love that restores everything. Love that heals everything. And if you can love your family in this way, if you can forgive in this way, if you can invest in this way, you don't even need the method. Love itself will do the work. Because in the end, every divided family is hungry for just one thing: true love, unconditional love, love that never gives up. And when you offer that love, when you demonstrate that love, when you live that love, people can't resist. The defenses fall, the hearts open. Restoration happens. Kathryn understood this in that night of 1952, when she stopped trying to change her family and began to truly love them. That's when everything changed. And that's when everything will change for you too. Her secret recording ends with a phrase that chills me every time I hear it. Love is the only force in the universe capable of transforming hate into forgiveness, division into unity, death into resurrection. Use that force. Be that force. Live that force and prepare to see your family rise from the dead. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Your family will resurrect. They will come back to life. They will return to love. And you will be the instrument God used to make this miracle happen. Kathryn knew that one day someone would need to hear this message. Someone would need to know this method. Someone would need this hope. That someone is you. Now you know what she knew. Now you have what she had. Now you can do what she did. Restore a family. Break generational curses. Plant seeds of love that will bear fruit for generations. The secret recording has served its purpose. The knowledge has been transferred. The method has been revealed. Now it's up to you. Use it wisely. Use it with love. Use it with faith. And may God bless your family with the same restoration that blessed her family. Amen.